Hi everyone, it's week 7, hard to believe. That just wanted to provide you with a summary of last week, talk a little bit about some of the material and our quiz from last week, and just follow up on a few items. So we had discussed a little bit about integration in our discussion board. Good discussion about horizontal vertical integration. And I think one of the things that I just wanted to point out, I think there's kind of a range of integration you can have. I mean, obviously, horizontal vertical integration are pretty straightforward. And I think in one of the discussion boards, I made tried to simplify it. I think we can get mired down in its complexity if we try and overthink it. And I would encourage you all not to overthink things a lot of the time. I think definitely some of you have a tendency to overthink some things, and try and it's easy to do with a lot of concepts in our industry. So that's why I kind of tried to simplify it very simply. So, horizontal versus vertical integration. And one of the things that does make it difficult in this marketplace is the level of integration in some of the industry here. So, obviously, UPMC, Allegheny Health Network / Highmark, highly integrated organizations. So it does make it really complex here when you try and just think about it for a few moments, because both of those organizations own so much kind of across that spectrum. Actually, there's a look in the book here for a second. There was a table. I think it was Chip that had shared it in the classroom, but there was a nice little table. Yeah, I was on page 220. There was that nice little table that showed patterns of vertical integration. And when you think about that table, and you think about a UPMC or an AHN and how they literally have, they have every aspect of vertical integration covered in their organization, except for perhaps, maybe they don't own a pharmaceutical company, but they do develop, like at UPMC, they are likely doing some pharmaceutical research, definitely clinical trials, but they may even be doing some biomedical pharmaceutical research. I'm sure they are. So it's they definitely have every aspect of it covered over at UPMC, and I'm sure they have nearly every aspect of it covered at AHN as well. So when you get to thinking about that horizontal vertical integration, it really can kind of boggle your mind a little bit. But think too about how it can help even smaller organizations. So I think I had shared like a more simple example, and think to an organization, maybe a hospital organization in a smaller area that perhaps buys up another hospital organization, maybe in another rural town a little ways away. And so these two hospital organizations can then eliminate some of the redundancy between the two. They can eliminate some of those overhead departments. Now, ultimately, and I think that I had mentioned this, why might this not be popular? This might not be popular amongst the employees and make administration not terribly popular, because ultimately it's going to eliminate positions, it's going to eliminate jobs, because you're going to eliminate that redundancy in administration. You're going to eliminate jobs in finance, in billing, in coding, in IT, in any of these overhead departments. But that's the point, because there is a ton of redundancy across all of these organizations. And for example, we have folks placed at different internship sites across the city. And even in these large organizations, UPMC and AHN, I've seen a massive amount of redundancy in some of these administrative areas. So I'm surprised that AHN and UPMC has not eliminated some of that redundancy. They are big organizations, so they obviously do need some redundancy, but they do seem to have a lot of local level redundancy in these organizations still. So even with horizontal or with vertical integration, they need to take advantage of that as well. There are great clinical benefits to patients, because you can get easy access to care, great continuity of care, those types of things. And then we had talked about in the discussion board some of the negative aspects of that too. You kind of get lost in the system, you become a number, those types of things. So there's good and bad for all of it. Good for patients, bad for patients, good for staff, bad for staff, etc. So there's good and bad, but sadly sadly or positively, however you look at it, for those that long for the good old days of healthcare, that is the way that the industry is going, and it's a financial need, because those small organizations simply can't survive on their own. So that's the way the cookie crumbles. So it's just going in that direction. What else? The case study. So the majority of you were able to attend the synchronous session last week. I'm glad that most everybody was there. For the few of you that weren't, I'm not sure. Hopefully you were able to watch the video. It helped you along with your case study, and hopefully you found the case study interesting to take part in this week, and you were able to put together some information for that. So looking forward to taking a look at that this week. I did get through, obviously, everybody's draft plans. I thought everyone did an excellent job on their plans. I did make a lot of comments, or tried to make a lot of comments, but if you do need additional help or want some additional info, assistance on your plan, on your draft strategic plan, please let me know. I'm happy to help where I can. Also please make sure that you go back through the commentary that I provided on your draft strategic plan and make updates based on that commentary, etc. So I think everyone did a nice job, and I look forward to seeing your final plans this week. So I apologize. It really took me a long time to get through everybody's stuff. I did not get to your mission statements until this morning, because it really took me about 4.5 days to get through those other assignments. So it did take me until this morning to get to your mission statements, but I did get through those this morning. So you should have all your assignments back from last week now. Okay, so let's take a look at the quiz questions. First one, positioning depends on the strengths and weaknesses of the organization and the opportunities and threats in the internal environment. How a product or service is positioned depends on the organization's capability and the competitive situation. So this answer is false. And in this case, positioning is actually more focused on opportunities and threats in the external environment, and focused on the competitive situation. It could be focused on the capability, because it is focused on strengths and weaknesses of the organization, but it is really focused on the external environment as opposed to the internal environment as much. So our answer in this case is false. Our second question is strategy formulation is deciding what the organization should explicitly be doing, true or false. And this answer is true. So when we're talking about strategy formulation, this is the process that actually the bulk of these two chapters we're talking about. And actually on page 210, there's a nice little decision logic tree. So for those of you that kind of, my brain works like this, very logic driven, and for those of you that like these kind of logic trees, or have logic driven, like flowcharts and those kinds of things, this might be helpful to you. But it's really, strategy formulation is really about making all of those decision points. What are all of those strategic alternatives? So it is that deciding all of those alternatives that you might be doing or should be doing, and in this case, you may be prioritizing them. So it may not be it may not be that you're going to do them all right now, but in a strategic plan or in strategy formulation, you are actually looking to come up with all of your strategy and all of your alternative strategies. So this nice little decision tree is really looking at all of those different elements within strategy formulation. So it really is deciding all of those things that you should explicitly be doing. What are all of the elements that an organization should be taking part in? So our answer in that case is true. Okay, next one. Which of the following statements is true regarding the relationship of strategy formulation and situational awareness? Situational analysis. So in this case, it was kind of a wacky question the way it was laid out, but the answers were the same nonetheless. So what it was talking about are different elements of strategy formulation as related to situational awareness. The statements were: internal environmental analysis identifies strengths and weaknesses, specifies whether they are sources of short or long-term competitive advantage or disadvantage. Mission, vision, values, and goal development provide broad direction for the organization. Situation analysis provides the context for strategy formulation. Situational analysis provides information concerning the external-internal environments that is used in strategy formulation to develop strategic alternatives. And external environment analysis identifies important external issues and provides a comprehensive competitive analysis. And then there was an all of the above and all except D.